Before the sun had cleared the rooftops of Athens, a young man stood at the gate of the school with his sandals in his hand, so that he could leave without being heard. He was not lazy, that was the worst part. For 2 years he had come before dawn and left after dark, and he was still the slowest man in the room. When the master asked a question, the others answered before he had finished understanding it. He had watched them nod, quick and bright and sure, and he had felt something quietly close in his chest. The certainty that he simply was not made for this, so he had decided he would go home, and he would tell no one why. But the gate was not empty. An old man was already there in the gray light, bent over a heavy clay jar, his hands cracked from years of cold water. He was the oldest man in the school. He was also, though the young man had half forgotten it, the man who ran it. The old man looked up, and before the young man could invent an excuse, he said, "Before you go, sit a moment. Let me tell you about the last man who tried to leave through this gate at dawn. It was me." The young man did not sit, but he did not leave either. "You don't understand," he said. "It isn't that the work is hard. I can bear hard. It's that I am slow. I hear a thing 3 times before it stays. The others hear it once. I've watched a boy half my age finish a proof while I was still drawing the first line. If 2 years haven't made me quick, 10 more won't. I would rather go now than fail slowly, in front of everyone." The old man nodded, as if this were the most reasonable thing in the world. "So it is not the mountain you fear," he said. "It is that you climb it slower than the man beside you. You are not afraid of failing. You are afraid of being seen to fail." The young man said nothing, which was its own kind of answer. "Good," said the old man. "Then you'll understand my story. Sit, the water can wait. It has waited for me a great many nights. When I came to this city, I was older than you are now, and I had 4 coins to my name. I was not a scholar. I had been a boxer. I earned my bread with my fists, which tells you what the world thought of my mind. I came to Athens because I'd heard that a man named Zeno taught, at a painted porch in the marketplace, how a person ought to live. I had no money for lessons. I had no money for anything, so I made an arrangement with the hours. In the daylight, I sat at the porch and listened. And at night, while the city slept, I worked. I carried water, jar after jar, from the wells to the gardens, so that other men's vegetables would grow. And before dawn, I ground barley for a woman who paid me in coins and bread. Then I washed, and I went back to the porch, and I listened again. The other students found this very funny. They gave me a name. They called me the ass, the donkey, because I was the only one broad enough to carry the master's whole load on my back. They meant it as an insult. I decided to keep it. "Yes," I told them, "I am the ass. I alone can carry Zeno. But I'll tell you the truth, I never told them. Every one of those boys learned faster than I did. I was slow, painfully, obviously slow. I couldn't afford papyrus to write on, so I scratched the master's words onto broken pieces of pottery and onto the flat shoulder blades of oxen from the butcher, because I knew that if I did not fix a thing in front of my eyes, it would slip out of my slow head by morning. There were nights, many nights, when I stood at this very gate, water on my shoulders, my arms shaking, and thought exactly what you are thinking now. Everyone can see what you are. Go home. Be an honest fool somewhere no one is watching. I want you to understand, I did not stay because I was brave, or because I believed in myself. I stayed because there was water to carry that night, and a garden that would die without it, so I carried it, and then it was morning, and then there was another night. There was a day the whole city seemed to agree with the boys who mocked me. The court of the Areopagus called me in. A strong, able-bodied man, they said, with no trade anyone could name. How does he eat? They half suspected I lived by something shameful, and so I stood in front of the judges of Athens, the donkey of the porch, and I was asked to account for my life. So I brought my witnesses, not philosophers. I brought the gardener whose beds I watered in the dark, and I brought the woman whose barley I ground before dawn. Ask them, I said. They know exactly how I live. I carry water, I grind meal, and with the hours in between, I learned to be a better man. The court went quiet. These were men who measured a life in silver, and in speed, and in clever speech, and here was a slow old laborer who had chosen the hardest possible road to wisdom, and simply, stubbornly, kept walking it. They were so moved that they voted to give me money. A gift, enough to end the night work forever, and Zeno, my teacher, would not let me take it. For a long time that stung more than the mockery ever had, but I understand now what he was protecting. He knew the carrying was not in the way of my learning. The carrying was the learning. The water was the philosophy. If someone had lifted the jar from my shoulders, they would have taken the very thing that was making me. You told me you are slow and that the quick ones shame you. So let me tell you what 40 years of carrying water taught a slow man. Quickness is a gift, and like every gift, you did not earn it, and you cannot keep it. The boy who finishes the proof before you've drawn the line did nothing to deserve his quick mind. It was handed to him, and a fever, a blow, a hard year can take it back just as easily. To be proud of it is to be proud of the weather. But effort, the choice to lift the jar tonight and again tomorrow night, that is not a gift. That is yours. No one gave it to you. No one can take it from you. Of this whole business, it is the one part that belongs entirely to you. Zeno saw this in me before I did. He once said I was like a hard wax tablet, the kind that is painful to write on, that resists the stylus. Everyone laughed, but he finished the thought. The hard tablet is the one that holds what is written on it forever. The quick boys took the lesson in a moment and lost it just as quickly. I took it in slowly, with pain, over and over, and it never left me. The others were faster. I was more faithful. And faithfulness, it turns out, arrives too. Only later, and only for the ones who do not leave before it comes. So hear me carefully. Being slow is not failure. Being mocked is not failure. Being the last in the room to understand is not failure. For a man like you, or like me, there is only one way to fail, and it has nothing to do with speed. It is to put down the jar and walk out the gate. That is the only failure, and it is the one failure that is entirely up to you to refuse. The old man stood, with some effort, and lifted the heavy jar as though it weighed nothing at all. "I'm not going to tell you to stay," he said. "I'm going to ask you for one thing, not 10 more years, not to become quick. Just this, carry water with me tonight, one night. Then decide in the morning." The young man looked at the gate. Then he looked at the jar, and he reached out and took one of the handles. We don't know his name. History didn't keep it. But history kept the old man's, and I've saved the best part of his story for last. The slow boxer with 4 coins and a donkey's name did not quit. He carried water for 19 years while faster men came and shone and drifted away. And when his teacher Zeno died, it was the ass, the slowest student, the one everyone was certain would leave first, who was chosen to lead the entire school. He led it for more than 30 years. He wrote a hymn that people still read 2,000 years later, and near the end of his long life, he wrote a prayer that has never stopped being spoken since. "Lead me, O God, and lead me, destiny, to whatever place you have appointed me. I will follow, and gladly. And should I refuse, I will follow still." His name was Cleanthes. For most of his life he was told he was too slow, too poor, too old, and too dull to succeed at the one thing he loved. He answered the way the Stoics always answered, not with talent, not with a clever word, with one more night and one more jar, and the quiet refusal to walk out the gate. So, before you decide that you are not enough, that everyone can see it, that it's only a matter of time, ask yourself the one question that was ever really up to you. Will you carry water tonight? If the answer is yes, then whatever else is true, you have not failed. Not today. And a life is only ever built one not today at a time. I'll leave you with this. What's the jar you've been about to put down? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes naming it out loud is the first night's carry.